Okay, I think we are live. Give me 2 seconds, everyone, if you're there. Well, if anyone's joined me, thank you. I know some of you only watch this later, and so you'll get a chance to look at this webinar later in your Academy stream. So that means if you're a Grasshopper, it will be in your Grasshopper Goodies webinar section, and if you're a Ninja, it will be in your Teaching Tools webinar section there, where you'll also find an extra PDF I've added just this afternoon. So what's this webinar about? And why is it relevant to you? Well, that's what I'm going to try and cover in the next 30 minutes or so, possibly even less if I speak quickly. So it's really about recording yourself, but why would you want to record yourself if you're a student of Tai Chi? You may think that is the last thing that you would want to be working on. You would want to be working on your form or your breathing or your balance or coordination. Why on earth would you want to learn about recording yourself? What has that to do with Tai Chi? Well, interesting you should ask. He says whilst having a sip of tea. Cheers. The reason that I'm doing this series of 3 webinars on recording yourself is because, as you know, my school, my academy is called 21st Century Tai Chi, and we use technology to implement the lessons. Now, as a receiver of those lessons, you may be thinking, what has this to do with me? You may also be a teacher, you might be a student, or you might be someone who's just sharing it, but all of these are relevant categories. Let me explain very briefly. If you're another teacher, you may be thinking about doing more than just providing Zoom classes or YouTube Live. You may be thinking about storing, recording, and providing a library of material for your students. You may be a student and you may be thinking about sharing your progress with other people. You may be a Ninja member in my academy, and you may be looking to take advantage of Ninja membership, which includes the option of uploading a progress of your video each month for me to review. That's part of your Ninja package. Or you may just be a student who is thinking to themselves, what I'd like to do is I'd like to evaluate how I'm doing. And recording yourself is one of the most important tools for doing that. Once upon a time, you might be in a school which has large mirrors, and you could check your progress in relation to watching yourself as you went through. Well, if you don't have that access at home, and to be honest, who does? You may well think to yourself, well, what other opportunities have I got? Well, recording yourself is one of the best ways of improving your own Tai Chi. And we're going to look at why that's the case and what sort of equipment you might need to make use of this opportunity. And it's not as expensive as you probably imagine. So just checking my notes to see where we are. We're going to go on to look at the first category. And today, a quick reminder is we're only looking at hardware. In the next webinar, I shall be looking at software and possibly platforms to distribute that to and share. But today we'll start off with just software. Now, some of you may know me from a few years ago, and you may have seen some of my online courses, particularly the complete Tai Chi course or the short courses, 30-day courses that are on sale at the moment if you go to my site, or the sword all of those were recorded on a camera. Now, you may be saying to yourself, well, I can't really afford a camera, or how much would that cost? Well, it's interesting because the camera that I used was my smartphone. And if you have a smartphone, then you probably have a good enough camera to record yourself for the reasons I've already said. Now, for those 2 courses that I mentioned earlier, well, actually, there's 3 or 4 of them, I used my old phone. I've got a newer phone now, but my old phone was this one. It's a iPhone 5S, which, to give you an idea of how old it is, I think in September of this year, the iPhone 13 comes out. So 5S. Pretty old. I had a look at eBay today, and you can pick up one of these for about £50. That's probably about $65 or something. The quality is pretty good for what it's got to do, which is to record with, I'll take off the cover again to show you what I mean. You've got a camera on the back, and you've also got a sort of difficult to see camera on the front. Now, generally the back camera is of higher resolution than the front cover. But that's not the case with more modern phones, but in this one it was. So with the back camera, you could record a pretty decent video, and on the front, not so good, but it's important to use the front-facing camera when you're recording yourself, and I'll explain why. Largely because if you have your camera set up and you're recording yourself doing part of the Tai Chi form for you to evaluate, or to send to me to evaluate, or anyone else, or to your students, you want to make sure that you're still in the frame as it's recording. If you use the back camera, which I've tried numerous times and I recommend giving it a go, you very often are out of frame and you don't realize until you've finished your recording, and then it's too late. You've got to do it all again. So one way is to use the front face camera and to keep a check as you're moving along that you're still in frame. So that's the old camera, 5S. I've now got, well, I say now, I've got another iPhone. I bought this just under 2 years ago. It's an iPhone 11. This has a slightly better camera on. It's got a much better megapixel camera, so the quality is much sharper. And the front-facing camera and the back-facing camera record at the same quality, of which you can go up to 4K. And for anyone who wonders what that's all about, well, that's pretty much TV broadcasting quality, though you'd probably be reticent about recording everything at that quality because your files would be extremely large and you wouldn't be able to transport them very easily because they would be too big. So I wouldn't use that top quality. I'd look for 180 or, yeah, sort of like 1080p or above that. So what's the quality difference between those two cameras? Well, I've got something to show you here. So I'm just going to flick down here and give you an idea. Let me just watch this for a second. This is a sample of the 5S with a sequencing showing you the quality of the image. So once again, you can see there's another example swing we learned in the last workshop. I learned there's no secret to balance. It's a question of practice and constant awareness that eventually evolves into a reliable sixth sense. One thing balance is not, and that is keeping still. You can see I've been immobile, rigid. Balance is found in movement and playing with new frontiers, edges, perimeters, and the finding of a point of equilibrium in a world of constant change. So to help develop this sense of balance, we're going to build on the basics of momentum. A newer phone, and you can see the quality difference here. Here I'm demonstrating a posture from the William Chen variation of the Chen Manching form, the course that I'm teaching at the moment. And you can see I'm using a green screen in the background. The reason I'm doing that, I shall elaborate on in a moment or two. But to give you an idea of the quality difference and the lighting that you can see here on that. With the green screen, obviously, you can play around with it and you get all sorts of wonderful effects. Today, however, I'm not using a green screen. I'm using a black screen tucked behind me. So those are the most important things that you need in terms of hardware. You need a camera. But instead of going out to buy a camera, I would dig into your back pocket, pull out whatever smartphone you've got there, and the probability is the quality is going to be more than enough for what you need. Of course, if you're thinking about presenting professional courses and you're going to be selling them, you might need to get something a bit better than the old 5S. But having said that, it still gives a fairly good quality picture for the bucks that you pay for it. So other than the camera, what else do you need for recording? Well, I would say other than camera, you're going to need something to stabilize it. So instead of going out and balancing it on a wall or a book or a tabletop and hoping it doesn't fall over, to ensure you've got the right angle, my suggestion is, he says, reaching over and grabbing this, a very small, compact, lightweight aluminium tripod that extends out, as you can see here, and back again. It's got a little bit at the top there to fit your phone into, and that has been, I hope that's all right. That has been with me for years. It cost me about £20, I think. All these items I've listed in the PDF that you will find in the Academy, relevant Academy files. Like I've said to you at the beginning, you can find a list of all the equipment I'm mentioning and links to where you might be able to get it and approximate prices for each of those items. So the tripod is the most probably important one. It's out there, it's stable, it's going to be with you. You can adjust it on hillsides, in sand, or out in the countryside, or in your garden. And you really do need a stable image. Why would you even need a camera? Some of you might be saying, well, why can't I just use my laptop like you're using here? Well, generally the resolution of this camera up there is pretty poor and the lighting is not so great. And plus, have you ever thought about taking a laptop with you and balancing it on a wall in order to record yourself, or sticking it up a tree? Speaking of that, the impracticality of using your laptop for all different reasons is the reason why people use their smartphones with a tripod. Now, if you don't want to fork out for a tripod, you don't fancy carrying one around, there is an alternative. It's called, well, it used to be called Gorillas. I don't quite know what they're called now. But anyway, your phone goes in this way, across the top there. And what happens? Oh, yes. So you've got these three legs, and this is a particularly good one. I love this one. I've only just got it recently. You can wrap these around anything, on top of a fence, on top of a chair, on top of your head, possibly. Let's try it. Should we see if we can? Yeah. It even doesn't work that great, but sort of. There you go. I'm sure if you can use it on top of your head. But it will work probably better on a branch of a tree or a fence in which you have a really good angle and it's stable, it's solid. Don't get the cheapest ones. This one cost about £12. You can go to a local cheap pound shop and pick one up. I think I got my first one in Tiger, if you know that chain of stores. I got the first one for about £5. And to be honest, it really wasn't worth it. It fell apart very quickly. Bits of it broke off. This is a far better quality one, and it's only about 12 quid. So the other thing you might be thinking about yourself, finally on this subject of recording yourself, what if you move around a lot? How is it going to track you? Because you have to keep stepping backwards and forwards. Well, you can buy one of these. They're called gimbals. There's loads of variations now on Amazon and eBay. I think this cost about £30. Phone goes in there. Batteries underneath. 3 batteries, AAA batteries, I think. It's got a little button on the side there. I'm not going to demonstrate it. Some of you would have already seen it. If you've looked at my Chamanching course, you'll see me walking around in a circle, and basically this follows you. How does it do that? It follows your eyes. So one of the problems with it is you've got to keep looking at the camera as you're going around for it to maintain focus on you. Otherwise it focuses on someone else who's walking past, or a dog, and you come out of focus, or it even starts following someone else down the road. But if you've got a relatively quiet area, it's a pretty good way of doing the whole form, especially with the sword moving across, and it will follow you around. So those are the supports for your camera: the tripod, the gorilla, and the gimbal. You don't obviously need all of these. You may not need any of them, but to give you an example of what sort of costs are involved. So we'll just rush on now through to the final couple of items. One is audio. At the moment, I'm using, if you can hear it relatively well, I'm using this, which is a Raspberry made by the Blue company. They don't make this one anymore. It's a portable one that all folds up very nicely and compact by itself. But the Blue company, BLUE, make a whole series of very, very good, excellent quality, and not too expensive, although it's probably one of the more expensive items you might think about buying, but only if you're going to be doing professional recording or promotion material. Otherwise, you might like this, which is a lapel microphone. This one in particular I like, called Boya. Again, it's all listed on the PDF. The reason I like this one is, apart from it being compact, and it's very well made. It's metal grip here rather than plastic, and they've broken before. It's a 6 meter long cables, which enables me to walk way back from the camera and move around without having to fear that I've got to stay very close to the camera. So it enables me to move around a lot, which works well with the gimbal, etc., etc. So this works out about £30, I think. Very good quality, and I recommend it if you're going to be doing big movements that you need to be well away from the screen from. The Raspberry's great if you're within a foot or so, but otherwise you need something like the Boya. So that's the audio. And again, you don't want to use your laptop because it's fine for doing a Zoom or FaceTime call, but it's really terrible for the other more better sounds that you want to recover the quality of the sounds. I think that's pretty much it. Lighting, I suppose we could have a quick look at. At the moment I'm using, I'll try and tilt it over here if you can see it, this, which is called a ring light. They're pretty cheap, about 20 quid off Amazon. They give sort of broad overview, but it's quite shiny, and it's not, it's very flimsy stand that falls over a lot. For my more important videos, I've got 2 separate stands on strong supports with old, I think, halogen lights on that diffuse out the shadows on either side, whereas this is very much centered, but it's fine for doing these sorts of webinars. Again, I've listed them, and you can see links to how much they cost. You can, interestingly, you can also get these lights that I was just mentioning, the 2 standalone ones, often bundled with a series of backdrops. That's how I got these. They came, the black, I had one black, one green, one white one, came with the lights bundled together for I think about £50 or something. And that's pretty useful. That's a good, but you've got to be based somewhere to set this stuff up. Otherwise, it's a pain to take it down and put it up again, which is what I have to do because this room is not for exclusive camera use. So yes, that's stand and lights. We've looked at that. Why would you want to use a green one? Well, I've shown you earlier. If you remember, this was the green screen. This enables you to do a recording and use that backdrop and change it to whatever you want. So if you look at here, I've used it here with another backdrop that you create digitally. Why would you want to do that? Well, in this particular part of the world, it's not always reliably sunny outside to go and record, as I've found over the last 2 years since moving back here to the UK. And one of the issues is that very often I have to go out and record and it's chucking it down with rain. So what do? I have to postpone. With a green screen, I can at least hang it behind me and add a background another time. So that's interesting. If you do get a green screen, think very carefully about getting the largest one you can, because the first one I got was so small. Every time I lifted my arms up in the air, it went over the height of it. So you really want to buy the biggest one that you can. Again, I've put some links in the PDF for anyone who's looking for useful for you. Remember that if all you're doing is you're sending me a progress report, then you could use your laptop camera and the audio there. That's fine. If you've got a smartphone, even if it's the old 5S, perfect. That would be absolutely perfect. If you're sharing it amongst other people, you probably would like to use something like an old smartphone for that slight increase in quality. I would really look at getting a tripod if you're going to be doing a lot of this. If you've got lots of students, obviously you need to have a basic amount of equipment. It's worth investing in some of this. But if all you're doing is uploading for me to have a look at as a ninja, then use whatever, that's fine. This is really for those of you who are teaching and looking at improving the quality of your work in order to build a library. Not like this, a webinar. It doesn't matter whether it's a bit blurry or the sound's not that great or you can hear the cat or dog barking in the background. That's not really an issue. Only if you're producing content that you intend to distribute commercially to others that you'll want to edge up your equipment a little bit. And that's why I'm giving you this, as well as to encourage you at the end of the day, even if you decide not to share that video footage with anyone else, but just as an opportunity for you to look back at yourself and see how you're getting on. Apart from the fact that it'll be great for you to look back in a year's time to see how you were doing it compared to now, but also just to see whether or not you're aligned, whether your arms are too far to one side, whether your neck's too far forward, whether your hips one up or down, or your shoulders are a bit hunched here. These things are very difficult to see when you're doing it, but video work is an excellent way of correcting yourself. So I'll leave it there. In the follow-up webinar, I shall talk about software and platforms and how to distribute this and edit if need be, freely or with minimum charges. And hopefully that will encourage some of you to do more of it yourselves. Don't be afraid. You're not going to damage anything. Just give it a go. See what it turns out like. And I'm sure once you've done it a couple of times, you'll enjoy the process and learn a lot from it. Okay. Got any comments? Leave them wherever you find this video. I don't think I'm going to leave it on YouTube. I think I'm only going to leave it on the 21st Century site. So for Academy members only, you can pick it up there. It's not really relevant to anyone else, but for you lot who are working with me on some level or another, whether you're on the free Grasshopper level or you're interacting with feedback with me at the Ninja level, then I hope that this will be useful and it will be stored forever within your respective membership account. Okay, have a great weekend and I'll leave it there. So ciao, and again, leave any comments you've got and I'll try and get back to them if I can.